By the way, somebody asked me about this Spitfire poster, if they were in Belgian markings. It looks like they're in British, New Zealand, and Spanish markings. Dun, 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 dun. The Gaius is primarily a screw together kit. There's a little glue on the head. It's got the little motor, and it's got its play value. It's kind of a compromise between a model and a toy, and it's called a lot of the movie Gaius is standing erect, but still, it's cool. That's the RE kit, and you had the Pagila by Bandai. I've pre-painted the tusks, so I haven't put them on yet. I got to finish painting. It actually has a tongue that goes inside, so I painted all the inside red, got the eyes pre-painted white, and also he sent me this little Godzilla Shin Godzilla came with it. Here's the F-80. I didn't realize an F-86 comes with the Pagila, which by the way means penguin. And Pagila is an Arctic creature, and Gaius is basically a space vampire. By the way, that one eats people. I was watching the movie and like tears them to the top of the bus and chows down on some local Japanese. I was like, whoa! A little dark for a TV show. These are basically characters, I believe, from the Ultraman series in Japan. So haven't gotten started on the little car yet. But anyway, so let's. I didn't. I was doing grown-up stuff all day, so I didn't get a lot done. I just got here and got this. I did get a little work on the GB and the Super Marine. I got them started, but I did get a chance to do a little bit of study on the Waddell Williams Racer just to learn the background, because that'll be the next big kit. Well, let's talk about it. We're talking about the Waddell Williams Racer. There were 4 of them made, and without getting into a huge history lesson, Roscoe Turner flew one, and the original is called Waddell Williams. Waddell, I believe it was Jimmy Waddell, was the race pilot who was the designer, and Williams was a partner who was primarily the money. And they... as people have pointed out, this thing was basically built on the hangar floor. And Waddell wasn't a bad designer, but apparently there was some, and this is not uncommon with aircraft that are, basically built in a hangar, by people trying to get something together back in the 1930s. But there were some definite quality control issues, apparently, particularly with the welds. And and Waddell was working on several aircraft, but he finally got back to this one, got a good engine on it, kind of got it flying the way he wanted. And Roscoe Turner took interest and said, hey, can you build one of those for me? And I think he had a couple more in production, so sure. What I didn't realize until recently, I knew a lot of these airplanes were swapping out engines. What I didn't realize is often they did not own the engines to their aircraft. They would, Pratt & Whitney would provide one, or Wright would provide one, and if you won the races, then they got the publicity and everything, but the engine often belonged to the manufacturer. But anyway, they kept putting progressively bigger engines on them. And when Waddell was test flying, it was a second flight for the plane they built for Turner. Wing snapped off, and he was able to bail out. But so they decided it was time to hire an aeronautical engineer and somebody who really knew what they were doing. And he redesigned the wing, and Turner, I think, was also down there kind of watching the work, and they were more careful with the welds this time. And when the test pilots flew that plane and Turner flew it, it was a lot better than the original. A lot of the issues with wing vibration were gone. It was performing the way they wanted. Now, they apparently built 2 more of them. I guess they were ships 3 and 4. And they went ahead and just plucked the wings off of those and put the new wing they'd made for Roscoe Turner on it. And the planes wound up setting records. Some of them were going well in excess of 300 miles an hour. So that was kind of the secret sauce. I don't think the original ever had the wing changed. So it's anyway. Only 4 of the Model 44s were built. Now, Waddell did build other aircraft. He was eventually killed in a crash. Turner is one of the few that lived to actually retire. He quit racing when he was 44, and he died in his 70s. He stayed involved in aviation. I've seen some interviews with him. For those who don't know, Roscoe Turner was one that was made famous. His is the one, the red lion one that says Gilmore. Now, he repainted the plane several times because he was flying for Gilmore Oil, which after a couple of mergers became Mobil. But he had the lion that he named Gilmore, and when the lion got too big, he got it as a cub. When it got too big, he had it sent back to where he got it from, which was a guy that raised lions, where apparently lived a happy life, and after it passed of natural causes, he had it stuffed and put in his home. He really did, I think, have an affection for Gilmore. But anyway, Turner was the one that was made famous because he called himself Colonel Roscoe Turner, and he had this homemade flying uniform that looked military, but it was actually something he put together. He had the saucer cap and the blue RAF coat with the big belt and his own personalized set of wings and Yodford pants and not jack boots, but the riding boots. And the thing is Turner never liked that uniform, but he had the waxed little mustache. But he was a showman. You know, don't get me wrong, he was a first-rate race pilot. He won I think Bendix and Thompson, and he had his share of crashes and things, and but he also understood that he was promoting aviation, so he was all of this was very much a showman. But when he wasn't, in character as Colonel Roscoe Turner, he wore a suit and tie. By the way, how I knew he'd been a lieutenant in the Air Corps. I think he'd been a balloon pilot. I thought he'd just given himself the name Colonel, but actually, in one of I forget which state it was, Nevada or Missouri, whatever. The point is that he became the aide-de-camp to the governor, which carried with it apparently a rank of lieutenant colonel, I think, of the state guard. And then he later did the same thing for, I think, California. And so he kind of legitimately had the title colonel. So anyway, colorful guy. And I'm not sure which paint scheme I'm going to put it in, but I am kind of inclined to put it in the Roscoe Turner colors, just because he's a character I remember reading about as a young man. Now, I actually knew someone who had dealt with him personally. He wasn't a fan, but that could have been a personal thing. I don't know. His exact was he was 80-odd years old when I knew this gentleman. He said he was a horse's patoot. That's a direct quote. But I don't know. Far be it from two pilots of barnstorming era to ever rub egos, right? But maybe he was. I don't know. But regardless, I think that's where I'll go with it. And they wound up putting like 1,000 horsepower engine on one of these things. It's amazing. And he even said one of the biggest Turner himself even said one of the biggest problems was figuring out how to basically keep the engines bolted on. And side note, I don't know this personally, but I've heard that, after the war, a lot of the old Stearmans were converted to crop dusters. And I've heard that when they started putting these big 450 engines on them, a lot of these were, let's call them field modifications. And that there were a couple of occasions where guys were crop dusting these big four that weren't properly mounted. The engine came off. So the things you hear growing up on a duster strip. So anyway, you hear names that are of characters that if you're not in that world, you'll never hear of. And I'm sure the same goes for every interview. Guys like, Booger Red Vinsel and people like that. And I guarantee you, racing and boating and skydiving, they all have their heroes that are very specific to that niche. But Turner was actually a kind of a household name. He was even in a movie that I cannot find a copy of. I forget the name of Flight at Midnight or something. And he did rub elbows with the Hollywood crowd. And he was down there the same time as guys like Paul Mantz, and who was a famous stunt pilot, aerobatic Hollywood pilot that was had Tall Mantz Aviation. Actually did a little video on them. And he was the one that taught Amelia Earhart to fly. And he was killed in the movie Flight of the Phoenix. You can see the one that contraption they built that's supposed to be the airplane they built from the wreckage of their C-82. They were doing some insurance shots, doing some touch and goes, and the vibration snapped the fuselage, whoosh, over they went, and Mantz was killed, and the stuntman behind him was pretty badly mauled. So anyway, sorry, just going off on one of my little tangents there. But, well, here's a question of the day. In your preferred field of endeavor, aviation, auto, boating, trains,
other. Okay. Who is that unsung person that nobody outside of the field would ever have heard of? Maybe a local hero. Well, that's it for tonight. I'm Max of Max's Models. Got to go in and do the grown-up stuff. Guys, you have a wonderful evening and keep on modeling.